Step number 1, finding a problem passage. Here we simply need to start reading until we find an error, a mistake, a blunder. Oh, here's one. Step 1 doesn't take very long. In Surah 18, 83 through 86, we read, "And they ask you about Dhul Qarnayn." Dhul Qarnayn is supposedly Alexander the Great. "Say, I shall recite to you something of his story. Verily, we established him in the earth, and we gave him the means of everything. So he followed away, until when he reached the setting place of the sun, he found it setting in a spring of black, muddy, or hot water, and he found near it a people." This passage seems to be saying that Alexander the Great traveled so far west, he found the place where the sun sets. Where does the sun set? It sets in a spring of muddy water. And people live there. All of these translators agree on what the Quran is telling us. They all say that Dhul Qarnayn reached a place. What place? The place where the sun sets. Is there a place where the sun sets? No. Could Alexander the Great have reached it? No. But the Quran says he did. And what did Alexander find when he reached this non-existent place? He found the sun, which is roughly 1.3 million times bigger than our planet, going down into a pool of muddy or murky water. Does the sun set in a pool of murky water? No. Do people live there? No. So we have multiple errors in this verse. Maybe I should take this to my Muslim friend to see if he can explain it for me. Maybe I should take this to my Muslim friend to see if he can explain it for me.
Okay, so we've heard what David Wood has said. I think you should take this advice and listen up. It says, وَجَدَهَا تَغْرُبُ فِي عَيْنٍ حَمِيَةٍ, which means he found it setting in a spring of dark mud or dark water. You heard what David Wood said about this. What I'm going to do is just to explain the meanings of the words used in this section. So the first word is wajada. What does wajada mean? Here it's translated as he found. But actually, it means to find, to perceive, to discover, and to experience. It's doing these actions and there being a strong emotion. So when one finds something, when one discovers something, it leads to a strong emotional state. And Dhul Qarnayn here is experiencing one of the great signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is something that we've probably all experienced when we see a sunrise or a sunset. So this is what actually Dhul Qarnayn was doing. That as he reached the time of the setting of the sun, he discovered this great scene in front of him of the sun setting. And it says he found it. This ha refers to the sun. So he found the sun taghrubu, setting. One point with this is we have the fi'l mudara used, the present tense verb. When it's used, this indicates something that one is actually experiencing at the moment. So he discovered that the sun was just about to set and it was happening in front of him, and that's what the present tense there indicates. So he was glued to it. He wasn't looking around at other things. He was so mesmerized by this scene in front of him. Taghrubu is the present tense. It comes from the word to mean to depart, to be distant. And that's what happens when the sun departs and it becomes distant, more distant. So it doesn't actually have the meaning of entering. So for example, if I said taghrubu shamsu bil ufuq, the sun is setting in the horizon, does that mean it actually enters into it? It doesn't mean that. It just means that's the area which I perceive the sun to depart and to become distant. Now if David Wood was correct in what he said, that actually means that the sun enters into the spring, as he suggested, the question comes, why was taghrubu used then? Because taghrubu doesn't mean entering. If you want something to enter something else, you don't use the word taghrubu or the past tense gharaba. You actually use dakhala, and this would mean physically entering into it. As David Wood suggested, that's what it means.
He found the sun, which is roughly 1.3 million times bigger than our planet, going down into a pool of muddy or murky water.